But it has to have, according to this, it has to have at least 14% milk during.
So you're pumping in the middle of that well?
So
I mean,
that,
and how do you service
I
a well
remember
that's
that there was a thing in the news years ago where
That is a question that I don't know the answer to.
fighting a battle, and
I'd be interested.
so
You know, I
So-
love a good
the
engineering
cheap
problem.
chocolate, right?
I
So
enjoy that.
there it is. You have it right square from the inner
So
one.
you can even tell, sometimes I think they even put like wax in it too, just that.
Yeah. Yeah,
leftover
all
after.
the cheap, like the cheap, Boy Scout candy bars. They're so terrible. I've eaten so many of those for my son. I'm like, how many do you need? How many do you need to be able to get your pouch?
I have lived that one.
Yeah.
How many candy bars do I have to eat?
No, I do not want to be the popcorn kernel.
I swear to God, I had a garage full of popcorn for years. How many more bags? How many more bags?
Candy time. I'd like to call the Village of Middleville Council meeting to order. Oh, yeah. Far away. I'd like to call the Village of Middleville Council meeting to order. Kim, may I have roll call, please?
Mike Kramer,
Here.
Stephen Baldry,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Richard Hamilton,
Here.
Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Ann Williams.
Here.
All right, please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have a copy of the agenda in front of them.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, if you'd like to rescind that for a moment, I have an adjustment that I'd like to make.
I'll rescind that.
Under unfinished business, item 11B, I would like to discuss a contribution to the library feasibility study.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I have a motion with support to approve the amended agenda, including item 11B, discussion of contribution to the library feasibility study. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support. We have a motion with support to approve the consent agenda consisting of the approval of minutes of the regular meeting from August 13th, 2024, and the approval of bills as of August 21st, 2024 for the amount of $125,404.54. Kim, may I have roll call, please?
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Stephen Baldry,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries. Public comment? Anybody like to speak? Please take the podium.
Hello, Council. My name is Andrew Beck, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Thornapple Valley Church Middleville Expansion Team. I just wanted to take the opportunity to show a little insight on how TVC has impacted the Middleville community. From January to July, we've done over 830 hours of community outreach. An average amount of students at our youth group, known as Fusion, which is grades 6 through 12, averages 32 per week and is growing. The average amount of kids, which is birth through 5th grade, we've been serving over 45 kids per week, and that also has been growing. We offer 3 free professional online counseling sessions per week through our Compassion Center and outreach. And hopefully we'll be tripling that number to 9 by fall of 2025. Our Compassion Recovery Program, which directly works with the Berry County court system, walks anyone through addictions, relationship struggles, or traumas, is currently located at our Hastings campus, but also by 2025, we're hoping to have that right here in Middleville. One of the things we do throughout the year is that at our campus here in Middleville is that we gather hygiene products for men and women and deliver it to the schools for the kids through the summer. We also had the opportunity with an offering last Christmas where TVC was able to pay the remaining TK lunch balance. That also happened here in Middleville, Delton, and Hastings school districts. While we can all agree that Middleville could use more affordable housing, we could agree that having local free resources that could help individuals, couples, and families that call Middleville home. Thank you.
Anybody else? You can go back up now. Mr. Beck had more than one topic to discuss, so in order to make sure he didn't run out of time, we separated it into 2 different discussions.
So switching hats. Hello, my name is Andrew Beck. I'm a resident of the village. I live in Misty Ridge. I'm suggesting that if council is considering rescinding the current ORV ordinance and not following the recommendations of the ad hoc committee, that you would consider adopting Berry County's ORV ordinance. It would give Middleville Sheriff Department defined guidelines to police accordingly. We have been working on this for a couple of years. The village lawyer said that it can be done with no liability or burden to the village. Mr. Powers had drafted an ordinance that was thoughtfully put together with the ad hoc committee's findings and recommendations. Businesses have clearly expressed their support. The Middleville Sheriff has added a line item to track the tickets issued to side-by-siders, and to this point, there have been none. ORV ordinance have been successfully adopted in our neighboring counties, villages, cities, towns, like it's literally all around us. And I'd like for us to add Middleville to that list of accepting them to drive through, patron our businesses and marketing, and really be able to use Middleville at its fullest potential. Thanks.
Any other public comment? All right, we can move on to reserve time. Ms. Getty?
Good evening. I'm not quite as tall as Andrew. So first, congratulations on Heritage Days this weekend. I thought it went really well. There seemed to be a lot of people who enjoyed themselves. Mackenzie did a great job with the parade.
Thank you.
And so congratulations on that. Since I've been here last, we did pass the solar amendment to the county zoning code. We hired a new county administrator. For those of you who made the county meeting this morning, he was in attendance. So we're excited to bring Mr. Zuzka aboard. Also quite sad to see Michael Brown go. But we did get 30 years out of him, which is unheard of. We did approve the Villa TIF this morning. We approved the CDBG Emergency Homeowner Program, which is a loan program for home improvement projects for low income, as well as 2 letters of understanding with the Sheriff's Department so that they can hire police officers and corrections officers with some experience that they'd be bringing to the unit at higher than a first year starting salary. We know, as you guys have struggled with too, is just staff recruitment and retainment. So that was an important piece and to memorialize in a proper letter of understanding. So it had been common practice before that. Any questions for me?
I see the finger. Is that an official request?
No, not yet.
No. All right, thank you. All right, we have petitions and communications. So Laura Brandt.
Hi, I feel very official here. I'm Laura Brandt from Hastings. Do you guys have questions? Do you want me to explain what we're doing?
If you want to just do a brief synopsis on it.
Okay, I tried to find the information before I came here, but I believe this is the 7th year we've had a 5K on the beautiful Thornapple Trail. We did a couple at Christmas time. Those didn't pan out well. We want to go back to our October date. It's very simple. We start out here, we go 1.6 miles out, turn around and come back 1.6 miles. Not a lot of other people involved. There's no cars, there's no traffic. It's very simple. And they just told me we had to come here and ask approval.
Any comments or questions?
Has the insurance and everything, it looks like it's all squared away. So, Mr. President, I'd like to approve the application for event permit for the Autism Alliance of Berry County for their 5K.
Support.
We have a motion with support to approve the event permit, not special, for the Autism Alliance of Berry County to host a 5K run on the Thornapple Trail. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
very much.
All right, next we have Resolution 2419. Gretchen?
Good evening, council. I'm in front of you to request approval of the DDA budget amendments. These were proposed or given to me by our finance director, Glormar. She prepared them. The largest impacts you'll see are we received the summer tax capture, as well as the funds we received through partnering with local businesses to fund our events with our partnership program. And then in terms of our decreases, the largest one you'll see is our consulting, which that refers to our TIF for certification, as well as the parking assessment, which should be to you in a few months. So does anyone have any questions for me regarding the adjustments?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2419 DDA budget adjustments. Support.
All right, I have a motion with support to approve Resolution 2419 to make adjustments to the DDA annual budget. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. Kim, may I have roll call, please?
Ann Williams.
Aye.
Stephen Baldry.
Aye.
Robert Bishop.
Aye.
Richard Hamilton.
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters.
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, council.
All right, we have council and staff reports. So Craig?
Good evening. I've got my written report, day late, dollar short for you, but it's there for you there. Just a couple of additions. Police contract is in the hands of the county right now. I sent everything over to the sheriff to present that to the Board of Commissioners for approval, along with everything over to the court administrator, Inez Straub, to allow them to enforce everything. Everything is in the police LexisNexis, their system, so they can write the tickets, but now they need to have the enforcement capability on the back end, so that's what we're working on with that. And then other than that, sorry, I had to leave the county meeting early today because I had double booked myself with contract negotiations this morning, which went okay. We'll know more next week. Just leave it to that right now. United Way Day of Caring kickoff is Thursday, September 12th. Mr. Bishop and I obviously will be up north at the MML conference, so we won't be in attendance, but if anybody else would like to be in attendance, if you haven't done a United Way Day of Caring yet kickoff, I would highly recommend it. They bring a local band in. It's a rah-rah, shish boo bah kind of thing, but it's really a good event. Really get to learn where your dollars go to when you do donate to the United Way. Budget is moving along. We're meeting tomorrow on that, and we've been meeting with local businesses with retention visits, and things are looking really well with those. Any questions?
Welcome back.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Craig. Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Council. So we still have a good amount of permits that people are continuing to do work throughout the month of August. Just various types of permits. However, some other updates was earlier mentioned. Midville TIF was passed at the County Commissioners meeting. The Baby Bliss project, that the project needs to be completed by September 20th. So you've probably seen some people out there. So stay tuned. We're likely to see more work commencing as we speak at a slightly faster rate. Other items, we have the State Street later tonight. I don't know if anyone has any questions about anything specific to this or anything else.
Are they doing an environmental study out there as well?
So
We did.
the Baby Bliss site, so they did environmentals on the Baby Bliss property. However, the Designware property, they still need to do soil borings because the site is completely impervious. So that wasn't done when they did the Baby Bliss. That's part of the timing issue to try to get that to fruition within the next.
I thought I
20 days.
drove by a guy taking a core sample this morning, so I wanted to understand that better. All right.
Any fire barn updates?
I do not have any fire barn updates as of yet. Unfortunately, I've reached out to the petitioner and asked for updates to be submitted for the next upcoming planning commission. However, if there are no updates for the next planning commission, I'll likely have a revised report for the next MCOW to discuss possible future next steps.
Which is next week.
So if we don't, the planning commission is after that.
Right.
So it'd be
So
an
they're the-
October MCOW.
They're the same day
October.
that if, in order for me to be able to get site plan approval, I have to have documents
Right,
at
I
least
got
10
it.
days. I have
just
time
meant-
to draft a memo and get it on the agenda beforehand.
But
Because they're the
there
same
needs
day.
to be an update on his end before next week.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Mr. Pergler?
Good evening. You've got my report in front of me, in front of you, and everything is pretty much the way it is. Weeds and grass, trees and shrubs, unlicensed vehicles, and so on and so forth. I did issue 3 different written citations last month on the second page. But everything else is pretty much as is. Questions, comments?
We do have, we're nearing this long weekend. There's a little grace for I think this is just for public consumption. We do give a little grace for folks on their RVs when they're prepping them and so on and so forth this week. And
We're getting toward that time of year when we have typically had
Yeah.
the grace period for September.
Yeah.
And people are pushing a little bit, but I've kind of, because it is at the end of the year, I've kind of turned my head a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, it's usually a big,
There are
push.
some that are very egregious. We'll go with that. That's a good word, isn't it?
It's a nice word.
But, it is the end of the year, so we're,
Always an appreciation for your lexicon.
yes. Thanks for your work.
Any other comments or questions?
thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Gretchen?
Hello again. In front of you, you have my report. As you know, we've been doing the pop-up TIF engagements. This past Saturday at Heritage Day, we completed our last, third and final public pop-up engagement. I will pass that along to our team at Williams & Works, and we should have a report coming that compiles the data from all 3, and I can share that with my board as well as the council. The DDAs began preliminary budgets. That's expected to go back to my board for approval at our September meeting, and then it will follow through and come here to you. We have a new business in town, Riverbend Yoga. We hosted their ribbon cutting on August 8th. It was successful. If you guys haven't been there, you should check it out. On our website, we have updated all of our new granting programs. The DDA also now has an active LinkedIn, which we'll be using to promote the businesses in town. If it's privately owned, if they give me permission, I can promote spaces that you have available on our LinkedIn, as well as if it's municipal land, we can promote it through there as well. It's also a great way to connect with developers. Additionally, we had Heritage Day, as Ms. Geddes mentioned earlier. I personally think it was very successful. I want to thank Mackenzie as well as many other organizations who were a part of that event and made it happen. Cumulatively, we had over 30 volunteer hours put in, which I think is really awesome. And it was a great event. Lastly, before this meeting, we had our MDA training, which meets our best practices for board education. I want to thank the council members who took time out of their day to come and be a part of that. I think it was really beneficial, and I hope to continue doing those things in the future. And then lastly, as you all know, we've been talking about Main Street and what it means to become a Main Street community. So one of those first steps that I have for you all today is this paper. It's called a scorecard. I'm going to give you some homework. If you can bring it back by next Tuesday, that would be ideal. If you can't, let me know if you want an emailed version. I can get you that as well. Basically, you just go through the scorecard. It shouldn't take too long, and you rate Middleville's downtown on how well we're doing in different categories. So if you don't mind, I'll pass these out really quick right now. And I guess, does anyone have any questions?
I do, Gretchen.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear about new businesses coming into town. But for me, I'm hearing that there are leaving town. We never hear about those. I do read them in the paper, and that's where I find out about it. Is that anything you discuss?
Yeah. So in regards to some of the businesses that have left in the last year, I have had conversations with them before. It's up to their discretion whether or not they communicate that they're going to be closing before. I will say, without breaching their confidentiality, that some of those businesses aren't leaving for the reasons that people may assume they are. But yes, I have had conversations, and I'm aware, and I try to offer all the resources the DDA has, as well as the chamber, other organizations, and ways that we can help them and retain those businesses.
What, if I may, what are we doing to bring in new businesses? Like, are we actively advertising open spaces on our sites then with the LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're advertising on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. Like I said, if it's privately owned, it's falls partly on the owner in order to give me the specs and the permission so that I can move forward with then posting them. As I mentioned, we did start our LinkedIn, and we did post our first one, which was Opus, who just left. And since that posting, that space has been rented. So we will have a new business coming to town soon as well.
And what?
On top of the many new grant programs that the DDA is offering.
Right. And then I like the retention meeting. So what does that look like usually for our businesses?
So usually it's coordinated with the Berry County Chamber and Economic Development Alliance, and they bring in members from the state and then local. So Doug and I usually participate in those as well, and just to see if there's any issues with the business, see if there's anything any things that are going on with them, like they're lacking the ability to hire people, or with housing, or things like that, and then just offer whatever we can from there. So
I think Catherine Broussard used to do that too, work with Jen.
it's part of the
Okay.
Which I meet with
Yeah.
businesses relatively frequently. I think Doug and I were talking about having a better system to track and log that, so that
Yeah.
if one of us were to leave or someone new were to come in, then we could see like previous dialogue and like what's needed and what's not.
Okay.
So I think that's something we're exploring and would like to have in the
Okay.
near future.
It's kind of a three-headed horse, either Gretchen, myself, or Doug, or a combination of the two usually, or the three are usually involved with those. So.
Sorry, Craig, I didn't mean to leave you out.
No,
You
you're fine.
too, yeah.
I'm just
It's usually Doug that gets left out.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
So would that be like do we have a process for a more formal exit interview, something that we could track in the future?
We could set up a more formal. I have done a few exit interviews. I've done 2 in the last year. I don't necessarily publicize what I learned because sometimes businesses don't want that information shared. But we could figure out a more formal way to have something to share with others.
Well, not tie the data to any one
Yeah.
business or just statistically
True.
what
Yes.
issues we face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
The first question is, off the top of your head, could you say what the number one reason is for businesses leaving town on average?
Based on, kind of put me in a corner, but I think business in general, just getting people to come in and spend
Money
money.
there, okay. And then my second, well,
But
it's
that's not true for all.
okay.
Traffic, in other words.
My second question, it's not really a question, it's a statement, is disappointment. Training is great, and I think everybody should continue training, but for a little over a year, we've been asking for a strategies meeting, you know, since last year when we had this discussion about the TIF expiring, and I'm still expecting to some degree a mediated strategies meeting, joint session with the DDA board for an open discussion on what that looks like. So I'm disappointed we haven't done that in a year, and I'm disappointed that, you know, instead of that, we're doing another training, which we already had at the beginning of this year.
I feel like we did a strategic meeting earlier this year.
Mhm.
All got
It wasn't
together.
really what we've been talking about on this board. It was between the township board, and it was a great training for the township and the community, but when we discussed TIF issues and upcoming TIFs and goals of the DDA next year, and we've had these discussions on where are we going, and we're not in alignment between the council and the DDA board, you know, that's that strategies meeting we've all had, and we've had the discussion. I'd be happy to go back and pull up those recordings. So I'm just disappointed that now we're looking at fourth quarter creeping up here and we haven't done that. So.
Mr. President, if I may just comment. I think a strategic meeting between this board and the DDA is essential. I think there have been a lot of discussions about what that looks like. And I think primarily it makes really good sense to ensure that when we do sit down with that meeting, that we as a board also, we have to refresh our strategic plan. I think the DDA fits very cozily inside of that planning. And I think there's a lot of rivers that have to flow into the single river before that makes sense in terms of a positive outcome for everybody. Because I think the goal here is that we want to really align our vision and align our focus on a set number of things so that we can aim for them and what role the DDA plays in achieving those goals. And I don't think that we as a village have that ironed out quite yet, but I do believe that we're certainly discussing it. I know that Doug is working on that as well. So I think that the work is being done to make that happen. And I think I agree with you that we need to get that done I would hope by the end of the fourth quarter, or at least before that hits, at least to wireframe something. So I agree with you. But I think that it is happening to some degree. I think those rivers have to flow together. And when they do, I think then we'll have a common goal and a common vision so that we're not going in multiple different directions as we may be doing right now.
Right. Well, and I do appreciate that. And I know what solutions you allude to, but at the same time, you know, we've had a year and we still haven't sat down. And now we're looking at pivoting. And so I'm just disappointed that something hasn't been done in a year's time. So.
I hear you. I will say one thing is that as we're in like this TIF for certification process, the process can take a large amount of time. And so part of that process is the engagement portion. So we have the 3 pop-ups, and then we're going to do our business engagement, which I didn't mention, but tentatively will be October 21st. We'll invite the businesses in. And then after that is when the DDA as a board and then council, whichever members choose to be there, can be a part of then building what is our plan going to look like. So I'm not sure exactly as what date that will be. It will have to follow
Right,
after that. My hope is that it happens before the end of this year.
right.
But I don't want to promise that right now.
But it's more, like I said, just getting the board and our board on the same page as to how we're gonna move forward,
Yeah.
so.
Any other questions for Gretchen? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pass these out really quick.
I have one. It is 60% complete. My homework was behind because I also had to do Gretchen's review. I prioritized that, just so you know. All right. Liaison reports. Mr. Hamilton? Feel like Doug sufficiently covered it?
Doug,
All right.
Doug, I mean,
Kenzie, did you make a library meeting?
I didn't receive a agenda beforehand and I didn't receive an email notification from Josh confirming the meeting, so I missed it.
We're
Last week?
still working on that.
Yeah, but, TAPRC, I missed our last meeting. I think I'd mentioned that. We have our upcoming meeting next week. No, 2 weeks. And then, yeah, and I don't think I've gotten minutes from our last meeting, but once we approve those, I'll pass those on to you.
Let's see. ZBA? Good. All right. Am I missing anything before we move on? Feel like we're good. All right. Moving on. Let's see. We're in unfinished business. So unfinished. Item A, ordinance 2140 to repeal chapter 66, the ORV ordinance. Mr. Powers.
So a lot of these items are, you've already seen this before in regards to the background. Just a couple quick notes. This was drafted in response to the director from the previous meeting, where the attorney drafted an ordinance that would allow for Article 7 of Chapter 66 of the Code of Ordinances, the Village of Middleville, relating to operations of off-road vehicles within the village to be rescinded in the way they currently stand. Being that this is a rescinding of an ordinance, it does not require a public hearing like adoption of many of our ordinances do. However, so there are multiple actions you could take. You could take action on this today, or this could potentially be postponed to a later date. That's up to your discretion. Any information, anything I can provide, I'm more than happy to do so.
I just have a quick question, if I may.
Sure.
Kind of going back to Andrew's point, once we rescind this ordinance, doesn't it automatically go back to the county?
So it would go back to the county statute for regulating ORVs, where the county statute prohibits ORV usage within the village limits unless the village chooses to adopt regulations regulating them in some shape or manner.
Okay.
Well, if I remember the conversation correctly, the county doesn't have the authority to overwrite state law. That's why we were rescinding our ordinance, because having our ordinance causes confusion and makes it difficult to enforce, which is why we've had no tickets. So in order to go back to just adhering to state law, we have to rescind our
Right,
ordinance.
but just making clear that we don't have to then adopt an ordinance to adopt a county already, a standing
So-
county ordinance.
There was a previous ordinance drafted by the village president's right. A lot of this, there's been confusion in regards to what these regulations are. I know the village managers have more correspondence with the local law enforcement in regards to the ability to enforce this, most likely than I have in recent months. However, I can speak to, the best of my ability on these things, but I may want to direct some of these to
Like
him
I
as
said, I'm
well.
just clarifying that once we rescind it, we automatically fall back on county ordinance.
No.
So we don't
No.
have, so we have
You-
to make a
You'd
resolution.
have to opt into the county ordinance
Oh, I
if
see.
you,
Okay.
Which is confusion in itself, because
Right.
there's no authority to allow ORVs on the road without following state law. That was straight from our law enforcement meeting.
Right, but that was our last conversation though, was to adopt the county ordinance.
Well, no, our conversation was to rescind this because
Right.
our sergeant told us that it's against the law, whether the county has an ordinance or we have an ordinance or not.
Well, it's not against the law,
You
but
can't operate a vehicle on the road without license, registration, insurance.
I think, just
that
to
was
clarify,
where it was.
Yep, Mr. President, I apologize. I think the goal here is that we're trying to simplify.
yeah, no.
There's a lot of layers here. So I think the first thing that we would do is eliminate, if we rescind our current ordinance, that clears the way to adopt the county ordinance,
Right.
which then serves the purpose of eliminating the confusion about enforcement. So that's just, I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
Right, I
So-
understand that. I just wanted to
Yeah,
make that clear.
but we would have to make,
So I would have to
adopt-
direct those questions potentially to legal counsel because from my knowledge, the county ordinance has been on the books. So being that the village is part of the county, there would be no legal action by this entity to
If we
adopt of those regulations, that we would just automatically go to those. But
I think
certainly,
that's what you just asked, right?
That's exactly what I
Yeah.
just asked.
And I don't know if she got.
you have to
Don't know if I
direct
just
them to
speak
the
a different
attorney.
language, or-
No, I don't think, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but from my memory from when I was on the county board, when this originally passed, it does not affect villages unless they opt in to the county ordinance.
So we would have to make a formal motion.
You'd have to do two separate motions. You'd have to first rescind
Yeah.
the village ordinance, and then if you chose to opt into the county ordinance.
Okay.
To my knowledge, obviously, we would double check that with legal counsel, but that was my recollection.
If it was prepared to do that, I think that would have clarified and made this a little bit more straightforward, is what actions do we have to fully take in order to do what we're trying to accomplish here, which is, again, thin the paperwork on our side, push that back to the county, and then from there, it's our ordinances then no longer apply if it defaults back to the county. So however whatever we need to do to get that.
Were you not in the meeting when we talked to the?
Yeah, oh, I
sheriff
was, absolutely.
and the sergeant?
Absolutely.
Because we're remembering that different.
Well, I remember we talked about just falling back on the county ordinance, and then Andrew was standing there and we're like, is that okay with you? And he said, yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a different meeting.
Mhm.
Well, as I remember it,
That was the
it's
last.
clean on the enforcement end and clean on the judicial end when we place it with the county. Simple as that. So we need two resolution or passages here. One, we eliminate the one we have. We adopt the county. That's all I understand it.
Yep,
I
because
haven't been
So-
on all the committees.
So council, this certainly would help to clarify some of the confusion because this ordinance, what this is going to address is rescinding what's currently on the books, which states in regards to people who have, over 5 acres with sufficient buffering from their properties, how and where and when they can operate. It does not allow for the uses in regards to what the previous petition was proposing, and it simplifies the process. That certainly if there was something else that was being looked for, those items could be discussed with the sheriff's department, and we could try to figure out what the best way is to get those addressed, whether there's action needed by this board or not. However, that's, would be a separate action than ordinance 2140 that you see before you.
just for additional clarity and make sure that we heard this correctly, the whole part of getting rid of the ordinance or rescinding the local ordinance was it makes our village attorney a prosecuting attorney in the event that those tickets go all the way versus going and defaulting back to the county, which they have one already. So I think that was really another part that was appealing to me, is that we would end up at an additional expense to get to the same end, be using our village attorney versus just using somebody that's already there. Yeah. So, am I hearing?
Yeah, I
are
mean,
we
it's
on the
not an
same
and
page?
or, it's an and. There was a lot of reasons to revert back to the county.
Yeah.
That we talked about, so.
So tonight, we need to rescind our current ordinance and then go with the process of the county.
But
Well,
don't we need to?
No, we just need to rescind this ordinance and then we'll have we'll have the sheriff and the sergeant come back in and give you guys a refresher so we can
Okay.
get on the same page.
Fine.
So if that's the directive that the council's taking, you would want to make a motion to approve of ordinance 2140.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2140
Support.
to repeal chapter 66 ORV ordinance. I don't know who's got support. Kim's got it. Steve? All right, we have a motion with support. Any further discussion before we vote? I'll add some discussion. It's since we've, come down the wayside of rescinding this and letting it go back to the state, I've seen more compliance, which is huge, to actually see plated and insured ORVs on the streets. There's still some non-compliance. There's the ever creative zip tie a trailer plate to your ORV or slap the orange triangle on there. Or my personal favorite was football practice, and then a lifted golf cart and 2 toddlers hanging off the back. But this clears it up so that we can actually write tickets for it because we haven't been able to. So I do appreciate the residents that have gone into compliance. Any other discussion before we vote? Kim, may we have roll call, please?
Stephen Baldry,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Now, I have the next one, which is the contribution to the feasibility study, and I'll try and go quick so Doug doesn't have to leave the podium. Because we've kicked back and circled around and doubled back on the library feasibility study for a while, there's been some confusion on who's contributing what. Currently, the library committee has enough funds to do it, but they are also going to be the committee that markets a new library if we get to that point, if it is feasible. So the school has promised to contribute $2,500 to this. I'd like to see us match that, if that would be amicable to the board.
Yeah, that was a original thought too, so this isn't new. I'll make a motion to contribute $2,500 to the library feasibility study.
Support.
We have a motion with support to contribute $2,500 to the Friends of the Library Committee for the feasibility study
Can you add from the general fund?
from the general fund.
Yeah. From the general fund.
All right. Any further discussion before we vote? I will add that when we did our mayor exchange day with Lowell, it is crucial to have that central part of infrastructure in your community, the amount of offerings that they have far beyond books. It'd be nice to see that come to fruition. So thank you for the support on this. Any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we're contributing money, so Rhonda may have, I knew I was gonna screw it up.
You
Kim, can I have roll
almost
call,
made
please?
it.
I almost made it.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton, Mackenzie Peters, Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Stephen Baldry,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Thank you. All right, Doug, you have 36 State Street.
So the recommendation is for the village council to select one of the 3 proposals to move forward with, which we do have representation from each of the proposals here tonight. Planning Commission findings are on August 7th, 2024. Planning Commission found that Thomas Lyons and Copper Rock's proposal would align with the master plan. However, Thornapple Valley Church's proposal wouldn't align with the zoning ordinance as they exceeded amount of available parking and wouldn't align with the master plan as it encourages us from creating underutilized surface parking lots from proliferating or occupying street frontage. So the background, on May 28th of 2024, the Village Council heard, from Mr. Lyons' proposal where he had documentation. However, the timeline had been exceeded for the previous proposal consideration, so we'd extended that till July 31st, which during that time frame we did receive the 2 other proposals. So within this document, you will see some of the aspects that I drew out in regards to the Thornapple Valley Church. I listed theirs as separate as they did not submit development plans. There's very different from the other two proposals. And also, there is some potential aspects in regards to Mr. Lyons and Copper Rocks. And this is the information that was provided to the Planning Commission along with the additional findings that they made at their meeting. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns you have for me, if you have anything you'd like to address to any of the individuals, but hoping that can determine a party to move forward with.
I'd like to hear from the Copper Rocks on the, I know it was spelled out, but the pricing structure, how you feel that that's going to, I'm assuming that's you two gentlemen, so how that's going to look per, rent for those apartments. Is it going to be affordable housing? Is it going to be luxury apartments?
Good evening, council. My name is Greg Taylor. I'm with Copper Rock Construction. I'm joined by Ryan Brown, also with Copper Rock. If I understand the question correctly, I'll take it kind of in reverse order. Our proposed project is not designed to be an affordable housing project. It's more of a workforce or attainable housing. I know that there are buzzwords and definitions that are kind of loosely used in multifamily context, but essentially what that means is we're targeting essentially the area median income relative to who we would define as a market rate. Generally it's the 80 to 120% of the average median income for the community. So that's kind of the basis for the beginning of our looking at the rental rate structure. And that, of course, also dovetails into the general requirements that that most of the communities and any state agencies would have relative to this type of attainable housing. So not luxury units, not affordable units, somewhere in between, which is a product type that we build with regularity all over West Michigan and Northern Indiana.
Okay.
Mr. President. Sure. Thanks for coming tonight. From start to finish, you just said a few keywords that will probably put you on the spot a little bit. What's the timeline from start to finish on a project like this?
Generally speaking, a project like this takes between 15 and 18 months in terms of the construction period itself. Again, this proposed development is 44 units and, pardon me, 42. Thank you, Ryan. And so that time period, again, would be once we start the construction.
Sure.
There's still some pre-development due diligence, which we'll have to work through, particularly because it's on the riverfront. This is an exercise that we are familiar with. We've just gone through this in Hastings on a site we're about to break ground on there and for a similar but larger project. And we don't feel that there will be as many complications on this particular site, but we'll still have to go through the EGLE process, potentially a FEMA verification of the floodway and other things like that we would have to go through. But we think the general design meets both the ordinances and the setbacks that we feel will be in place based on the existing riverfront conditions.
And that is not so it's not a phased approach, or it's just those buildings that you have in your concept drawings that start to finish, they would be completed in your estimation in about 18 months.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Ballpark rent, you never did say an actual price. What are you thinking the rent would be for these?
Generally speaking, we haven't distilled it down to what it would actually be, on a unit basis. But again, we're following the area median income rent limits and requirements, and those are published. So generally speaking, between the 80 and 120% for a one bedroom, it would be $1,457 on the low end, to a max of $2,000 per month for a two-bedroom unit. And we're looking at ones and twos for this particular project. The low end is about $1,700 per month, and the high end is about $2,600 per month.
What would determine a low end and a high end?
Well, what we'll do is we'll do a multi-layered market study that will include obviously an appraisal where an MAI appraiser will verify the rental rates in Berry County. We typically also do our own independent research based on other projects in the marketplace that either here or would be on a similar
So
timeline.
they'll all be the same approximate apartment. It's not like you'll have one that's a little bit less efficient or whatever versus one that comes with more, which will be higher.
I think there's probably a high likelihood based on the incentives that we're seeing on most of these projects that there will be a certain percentage of the units, it's usually in the 20 percentile range, that will be identified at a lower end of that AMI scale, so that there is some affordability.
Sure.
But generally speaking, the fit and finish of the units are not dramatically different between those lower rental units. But I just want to be clear that, this is not a LIHTC project. It's not a Section 8 project.
Yeah.
It's not designed specifically for low-income housing.
Are you seeking any programs to assist in this construction project, or have you aligned yourself with any long-term funding or initiatives that help build these apartments out?
We think that the general model that we've been successful with in Hastings is probably realistic, just 12 miles away, with a site that's smaller but has a lot of the same characteristics. And Catherine's been involved in a lot of these meetings in Hastings since we've been working on that project. But these projects, based on the construction costs and the interest rate environment, really do require some level of incentive. Generally speaking, at the state level, MEDC and MSHDA are really directing developers at this point in time to use the new housing TIF program rather than the traditional MCRP program, which was more of a brownfield specific incentive package. So we would be likely working through that housing TIF program in a very similar way to what we've done in Hastings and on other projects. Obviously, we'd be working closely with the DDA and the BRA and the other agencies to make sure that the project lands in such a way that it meets all the debt coverage ratios and a reasonable return to on the investment. Again, since this is a market rate project, we expect some level of collaboration, which is going to be necessary, because even though we could, I hate to use the word cheapen any project by what we would call a value engineering exercise, which would reduce the quality generally of the project. That's certainly not our intent. We would prefer to build high quality housing that will stand the test of time. And so that's our intent. And again, we will competitively bid every subcontractor, lean in on any local contractors that want to participate in the project. But we view this as very much a collaborative event with the people here in the village, the people at the county leadership level, and of course at the state level as well with MEDC and MSHDA, who now govern those programs. Sorry for the long answer, but
No, it's exactly what I wanted to hear.
okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your candor and the detail. I appreciate that.
You did mention one other thing. We do have existing relationships with lenders that are multiple lenders that would be very interested in a project of this size. And we explore both traditional bank arrangements. We've done projects recently with credit unions who are also in this space, which have different sets of regulations, which could help benefit projects. And then we also pursue for end financing, and national lenders who, again, can try to push down the economic costs wherever possible without diminishing the quality of the project.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Sure.
When you presented this to the planning commission, you were asked about the same question. And you mentioned that you were not interested in a TIF. That you were going with regular investment, regular loans, had the money to do this.
I don't think that we ever answered that question in the negative.
I just wondered what happened.
And I apologize, Councilman Hamilton, but at the planning commission, we didn't discuss any financial mechanism for any of these projects. The only one that had anything financial was TVC Church, because that was a straight up purchase or acquisition of the property. However, the other two projects, numbers were not mentioned at that project. I believe, Mr. Lyons may have made some comments about the numbers looking there, but ideally, the direction I would see this going forward is whomever the council was potentially choosing to go with. If it was a straight purchase, then getting a purchase agreement prepared. And then if it was either of the others, we'd have to have a meeting to discuss what the potential next best action was going forward, whether a committee of the council was established to look into a development agreement or what have you. But there were no numbers discussed at the
We didn't get into
planning commission.
details, but I do remember that.
Yeah.
The Copper Rock had financial background to put a project in here in the middle.
That's correct.
That was it.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Wouldn't mind having Mr. Lyons come back up.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Mr. Lyons, would you like to speak to your project?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for your consideration. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. What can I?
Just a few questions, very similar questions, by the way. Just going back, how many units would this, at the end of the project, how many units do you foresee?
On the property you have down on 36th Street, and the concept that I put together, which I believe is more efficient, there'd be a total of 12 private homes in a series of 6 individual buildings of duplex style. There'd be 2 homes per building, spread around a small parked design on the property that's there now. I decided to make fewer units available, but larger than what the original concepts that I was presented with of possible units to go in there, i.e. none of my concept holds any rental idea. All mine based on private home ownership. And there would be an instilling of a homeowners association to encompass all 12 of those units, where they would obviously be able to handle their maintenance on their properties, snow removal and the like. The drawback we have on this original concept still is getting the superstructure or the understructure of the property ready to carry the utilities and the supports that go into that. Doug has gone quite a good ways for us and informed me that they've removed an awful lot of the excessive overhead electrical lines that would have just caused quite a large additional cost to putting the project together. So that has been handled. Standard market availabilities, and I am sitting here trying to, I have two other projects on the boards at the time, and I am at a loss of the size of each of these units tonight. I could probably ask Doug, but I think it's 11 to 7, somewhere between 11 and 1,700 feet, which is quite a big size for 2-bedroom units. I don't believe they're 1,700. I believe they're closer to 1,100 square feet, if that was.
And they're all 2-bedroom
They're-
to your,
Essentially,
they're all.
they're being sold, they're going to be designed as 2 bedrooms with the second bedroom there as also an office for the in-homes, because I'm marketing to, yes, yeah,
1340.
thank you. I knew it was over 11, but I wasn't sure how much.
So is it like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 1.5?
1340,
2-bedroom, 2 baths.
Okay.
576 of garage, 192
Thank you
of
very much.
exterior patio.
Okay.
I remember seeing that.
So in all fairness, what's your vision in terms of timeline? So when you break the ground on the very first,
Yeah, I don't think 18 months is realistic on any type of a project like this. 24 months is going to be the real go-to timeline. And that I want added on to, that's calling the day that we stick the shovel in the ground and start actual physical work. So we still have all kinds of lead up time to that now. So if you're thinking in calendar times from today's date, when it could be finished,
Yeah.
because it's also going to be determined on the marketability of these units. And I'm very positive, confident they're going to sell in a marvelous fashion, but I don't have a crystal ball to
Sure.
tell you exactly how things are going to work. I think realistically, as they get going and the models get presentable and real estate agents start seeing it, they'll move along at a very nice, comparable rate to the point of completion of all the units. But to try and give you a straight date of when it's just going to be steady construction straight through until it's completed,
I have a
which
question.
is about the best I could
12.
tell.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a walk-off delay of anything.
What's the average cost you'd be selling these at or marketing these at?
Market value is going to carry probably under $300 a square foot, but you're going to have to be realistic. It'll be over $250 a square foot. And then I also have to still bond in the overall cost of the infrastructure to that whole complex. That's going to have to be divvied up 12 separate ways into each home. So that is going to obviously, yeah, and the folks will own their, you would have to know that they would own it all. But on that size of a unit, I'm going to need a minimum of 3 electrical transformers to carry the home's servicing. And I haven't gotten into exactly what kind of quality we have for natural gas in there. There's still a lot of things that haven't been ironed out yet. So, there's going to have to be, a guesstimate on what the costs per units are going to be on finished today. I couldn't give you an ironclad number today. But thank you for that question. Anything else?
So my calculations at $275 a square foot, you're looking at almost $370,000 per unit. That's
Pretty realistic.
before you add in your site complications and your HOA agreement.
I actually kicked around that amount, that high end, that 300 a foot should take
Should
care of,
encompass everything else.
if I could figure out that they're normal, average, everyday stuff that works with everybody else. If something new comes up in there, we're going to have to handle that on a whole different basis. You know what I mean?
and that's per unit, right? Not
Yes, not per building, per
Yeah, per
unit,
unit.
per home. And it's marketed on this concept. The people that we're looking at to be interested in this, very much so in times past of ones that I've been involved in, really want both of those units. And one is for one part of their family, and then obviously the original for them. And it's been a pretty nice, successful concept, as I've seen done several times, especially down in the Battle Creek area where I'm living now. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. A little more to finish. When we were offered the original concept of residential homes down in there, there was desires upon the initial talks of having the community walks, which really, I guess, started the whole thing about how could you utilize that area. So the community walk through there, the additional playground assembly that was in the originals, and then, of course, the boat liveries. And that's really where I got into it, thinking that 19 or so units, but only 10 or 12 boat liveries. So it got kind of natural for me to think, well, if I had 10 units or 12 units and 10 liveries or 12 liveries, there's not going to be a confusion. Yeah, I've dealt with DEQ quite a bit on many things we've done. They're able to be worked with as long as you don't step on their toes. But their big thing is they want to be right in the middle of it. They want to know everything that's going on. And so, yeah, I know they can be stinkers, but they can also be, just fine to get along with if you get them just right.
Color in the lines.
Yeah.
One last question, and I
Yeah.
think it's in all fairness, just because I asked the other gentleman. Any programs that you're seeking to help?
I haven't pushed a thing on the financing. I do have several guys that have told me that when we get ready and we put something down on paper, they gave me pretty much what the interest rates of today are. I didn't like them, but,
Any state programs or anything?
I haven't researched any of that. The suggestions have been put out. Many years ago, I worked with some programs down in the Calhoun County area that never finished in fruition with their county land bank and grant programs for a big hotel system that I was working on down there. So I'm familiar with it, but I've never really received any grants or anything like that. I know all how to play the game, and
Sure.
when you're number 6 and 6 people, sometimes you're not the guy that gets it.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Anything else? Thank you.
Would you like to have a representative of the third party to come up and speak?
Sure.
Mr. Beck? No time limit this time. Not that we're encouraging you to run until 9:30. but-
We'll run this out. How can I help you, council?
So you were the third, well, your church was the third proposal on this.
Sure.
So do you want to outline your proposal?
It's, I guess in simplest terms, is we need to expand. The church is at a point where it needs to expand. We found that we're working well here with the community. The community's working well with us. I don't think that there's pretty much every event now for the past 5-7 years, I believe the church has been part of it in some form of fashion. Thank you. It's just pretty straightforward. These gentlemen come with businesses that talk about building. We're looking to expand to support the same people they're looking for. Really, they're looking to get people to move in. We're just trying to expand the programs that are already running to better suit our community.
So you're not looking just to expand parking, you're looking to expand your whole building,
Absolutely.
everything too.
Absolutely. Full expansion.
Is that, and I guess in all fairness, the timeline that you're thinking about doing that?
Immediately.
So you
Truthfully,
would break
yes.
ground on expanding your,
As soon as possible. The church has the capital to do such. It's very much been in the plans. Like I had mentioned before, there was a fire at this location, at the Middleville location, which put a damper on plans that were already in motion roughly 7 years ago, 5-7 years ago. Now that that's kind of behind us, we're seeing exponential growth, obviously in Middleville, but also our other locations. And so that is why we were teamed up to look at what expansion looks like, not just here in Middleville, but across our campuses as a whole. I think it would be wonderful to see that building expand. I don't know if something in the water, but there's a lot of people having babies right now. So it's just time for that church it's outgrown its walls.
I have a question for Doug.
Cool. Before we do that, do we have any more questions for Mr. Beck?
It pertains to Mr. Beck's
Oh,
plans.
well, I just didn't want him to stand there awkwardly while you asked Doug a question.
Okay. So if the church were to expand its walls, as Andrew says, would then that fall outside of the master plan for excess parking?
So the reason as to why they're limited is the amount of seating they have in their main worship area. Some consideration was given that they may have children in other area outside of the main worship area, so perhaps additional parking spaces could be allowed. However, they're still beyond that amount. But if they were to increase the size of the church, yes, they could potentially, get additional parking. I've been working with Pastor Rapp in the past and trying to look at some possible ways to resolve some of these issues. The DDA is doing a parking study that may suggest we should look into modifying parking needs for the ordinance. There may be space on that site. There may be, various options. The only thing I know in regards to, I'm sure you've all read the document that TVC had proposed. It didn't have a timeline or anything for when they're going to do work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Andrew? Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
We are open for questions, comments, concerns, deliberation. I guess I'll lead off. Let's be honest, the biggest complaint around the community is our taxes are too high. And that's true. I mean, we heard it this morning. We've known it for a while. We've also known, thanks to our last census, that our housing in the village is out of balance. We have far too many single-family homes and not enough rental opportunities. That doesn't really allow for our graduating classes of the last 5 years to have someplace to move into. If they wanted to stay here, they have to look outside the community. They cannot afford to live here. In order for us to maintain our infrastructure, we have to grow. Our taxes don't change because we have the same amount of houses, maybe a couple more every year, but the cost of pipe increases exponentially. The water mains are getting old. We know our sewer mains are old. If we don't grow, our community has to bear that cost. So I don't know where the balance is to grow responsibly without overdoing it. But I do feel we have been without apartments for quite some time. And that's.
Or not enough, right?
Or not enough. And that's the way I'm personally leaning, but I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts.
I don't personally love the layout of, I know this, I don't know if that can be fixed, but the layout of the apartments. But I agree with, I'm torn because I understand condos are a good thing too, but yeah, there's the picture.
For me, it's hard because all three proposals have great
They all have
potential.
merit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
they do.
one, you get rental properties for starting working class individuals. Then you have, community investors by having homeowners, and then you also have community investing in the church and feeding a community resource. So it's very challenging to pick one of the three. I'm personally leaning towards the community resource, the TBC church expansion, because that will also generate, well, no, because it's nonprofit. So
It's a
they-
church. It does not
yeah.
generate taxable revenue,
But it's, Andrew went through all of those.
but it does provide a benefit.
It provides huge benefit, especially to our youth, which, outside school programming, there's very limited youth options around. So for me, I personally am leaning towards the TBC church proposal just to accommodate our young kids, so.
Mr. Hamilton?
Speaking as a planning commission member, I did speak to Andrew that came to us with no plan, words. Appreciate everything they're doing, but there's very little the planning commission can do without physical plans. So as a commission, we did not consider the church as a viable option. For the same reasons that Doug said so. I mean, Doug talked about the parking and all that, but by the same token, there's nothing on paper that we could look at. Sounds like there is something, but we don't have it. I like the fact that Copper Rock starts and finishes complete, and it provides another 42 rental units for Middleville. Condos, I have a friend that had one on the market up on the hill for quite a few months for $280,000, I think the number was. Excellent units up on the hill. Took a long time to sell that. I don't know what they sold it for, but I assume it was on the market long enough that 280 wasn't palatable for buyers. So when you're stretching the number almost to $370,000 for a condo unit, that would, I think that would croak most people. We're talking 3 to 4 years out before they're all built, and that number could even explode even farther based on the inflation factors in building materials and market rate rents. Well, that's not a rental, but market rate sales for homes. So I'm leaning towards the apartment complex like Copper Rock. And I stated that at the commission meeting. There were 2 members of the commission that were concerned about apartments based on the fact that, well, we were in no man's land on the county approving. So at that point, it's kind of a mute issue. But now there probably, I don't know, there might be 2 people or 3 people on the commission that will voice a different opinion than mine. But as a whole, we narrowed it down to the two proposals. My opinion is the Copper Rock is the direction we should be going.
My only concern is if Copper Rock were to seek out that brownfield TIF, there's not front lots like we had with the Mid-Villa to generate income. So no matter what that taxable value, when it gained for however long they would apply for if they went down that route. So increasing the tax base,
Well, To that point, they don't have the complications of the other site either. They're not putting in a
Right.
lift station. They're not moving 93 miles of gas line.
But they got that, but Mid-Villa got that tax, or the brownfield approval because of it kept within affordable housing rates. So
You mind if I say something in that regard? So whichever direction you go, since we're talking about Copper Rock, I would presume if this went forward, that the village council would be entering into a development agreement where the logistics, it probably would not look like 100% like you're seeing with the Mid-Villa project. Those numbers would be discussed in regards to what their needs were versus what your needs are. And also along with the design aspects, those are items that could be addressed at that point as well, as to where the council could have that all drafted outside of the plan commission reviewing for compliance with the permit.
Mr. Bishop? Thoughts?
My thoughts are that we are in desperate need of housing, and the more units, the better. Yeah. I don't, I understand that the church has useful assets for the village, but there's not really any, there's no meat, there's no bones, there's no nothing to sink your teeth into. So as a project, I can't get behind that one. And the price point of the condos, boy, that's spicy. I just, the need for good housing for the people starting out, it's just too great to not lean towards the Copper Rock project in my mind.
Steve?
As a guy that lives a block away from that property on the corner of the four-way stop, and I've lived there 25 years and seen the traffic increase, all that type of thing. Yeah, I have an interest in how much traffic is gonna go up and down that street. One. Two, that particular piece of property is one of the last ones the village has to develop. It's flat, it's by the river, there's a lot of advantages of using that property. I've seen the TV church grow from how it started out to how it is now. And they've done things, great things for our community. They're very active. My son goes there as a member. I don't want my opinion to be taken the wrong way by the church, because it shouldn't be. But I think that piece of ground needs to go for housing. I'm kind of on both sides of the fence with housing right now, but I would rather see it be used for housing than for another parking lot. I know that, especially when I look at the tax revenue that would come from the three different proposals, that the church falls short on that. So I'm not sure I'm ready to say which one I would go with right now, but my choice would be housing, yes. And I would like to see perhaps something done a little bit more for respect to traffic as that goes through there. But
Definitely something that would be fine-tuned. Mr. Smith?
Hi. First of all, thank you for all three of you for being here tonight to present your ideas. Our village is, and Mr. Kramer has said it 100 times, and he's got enough time to say it 100 more. If we're not growing out, we're growing up. And there's a lot to consider when we deal with what that looks like. I think it's fantastic that a place of worship is expanding. There's a lot of community service there. There's a lot of outreach. It's a critical part of our community, and I want to acknowledge that because it's rare. And when it's successful, it only makes Middleville a better place. To the other two proposals, we do need affordable housing. What that looks like can be a coin toss. And a good friend of mine said a long time ago, there's a used car for everyone, but there's even more new cars for everyone. And regardless of what all of us on this board might think is expensive, there's somebody out there that thinks that duplex is ready to go. And it doesn't move as quick, I think, as other forms of real estate, but they certainly move. And I think it's kind of shocking, to be quite frank, given the average cost of a home nowadays. It's at a crisis level. You can't build a house, even 1,100 or 1,200 square feet. You can't make it. It's hard to make it affordable because it costs so much to build them at scale. And certainly in your case, that would be the case. Affordable housing for workforce housing that seems to be our sweet spot. It certainly is on this council. We are enthusiastic about doing that. Businesses in our community need it. We need it for our families. Yeah, I've college-bound kids that have nowhere to live here, literally nowhere to live. That's important too. I mean, if my kids decide to move down the road, I don't want to say, no, you have to move to another state, or another county. You have to, you know, if you want to live here, that's fine. And Middleville's a wonderful place to grow and raise a family. So it's a big conflict. I think there's a self-managed component to owning it that's important, because nobody takes greater pride in their space than when it's your tax dollar and it's your mortgage, and you're taking care of the outside. It's an important quality that will self-perpetuate. And pride is a big deal when it comes to home ownership, and I think that that's an important facet as well. I have to assume, and I didn't ask, and I was gonna, but I have to assume there's a property manager involved that's going to take care of the grounds, and that's going to be taken care of on a regular basis, and certainly fit within our ordinances and whatnot. So self-managed versus having a management company come in and do that, another concern. But something that's very tactical and something that we wouldn't flesh out here. The last thing, and this is, I think, the most important part, is what fits within our strategic plan. What housing fits in that space along the river that fits within our long-term goals as a village. Now, there are very clear guidelines of what they want to accomplish, and when I say they, us, along the river. We want to continue a lot of our walkable space. There's a lot of improvements that need to be made along that bank, and I think that this is one of those unique opportunities with either developer that we would discuss those as options. In all candor, I think we would have a lot more leverage given a TIF or some sort of programmatic application of support from other than just the builder themselves to help with those types of improvements that are sure to come up when we discuss them. Traffic management, things like that. Those are all, time and money. So it's a complicated choice. I tend to lean in the more boxes that we can fill with people that can call home, the better. And I believe very strongly that not only is that good for the property value in that space, but also for the community to bolster business. And to, again, when you have 44 units versus 12, that's more people eating at restaurants. That's more people going to Riverbend Yoga. Those are important places that get a lot of business because there's more people here. So that's a big consideration as well. So it's a very difficult choice. I think at the end of the day, having a self-managed space is like a good idea in terms of developing that land and making sure that it continues to maintain its value and its appeal. But I think that, again, those are all tactical things that we can work out in the wash. So we are very hungry for affordable housing, especially workforce housing that seems to fit well within the boundaries of what we're looking for. And I tend to agree that, the two larger units would certainly fit within our strategic plan in terms of the development. And I think that in the long run, it helps us answer a lot of the questions and concerns that we have with regard to bringing people to Middleville to call home. So that would be where I tend to lean, is more of the apartment versus the duplex. So.
Thank you.
I already said,
I know.
no. I'm not ready to make a full decision. I need more time to think.
I think this is up for discussion to decide on a developer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Ah,
Scroll back up. I'm pretty sure that was the intent.
I,
Mr. Powers, you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, that was the intention, because at the previous council meeting, I was directed by this board to have the planning commission come back with findings in regards to whether or not each of the proposals align with master plan and zoning ordinance. And that's what you see before you. So
I got it. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, as much as I appreciate Andrew and I agree with all that, I do agree with the apartments over the condos just because I'm poor. That's all you got for me.
All right. I guess I'll do it. I will make the motion that we select Copper Rock Construction for working with staff to create a development agreement with similar terms that we've used in the past. For those that are in the room, that means that if construction does not start within 3 calendar years, the property would revert back to the village so that we can move it on to the next developer. Any further discussion before we vote?
Will you repeat that one more time? Your motion.
So the motion is to have staff work with Copper Rock towards a development agreement for the property. And then I just kind of outlined how we did it with the fire barn, how we've done it with this parcel that we got back because they didn't build anything on it. It's just if they don't move or build anything on it, the property comes back to us so that we can market it to the next developer.
That was the first, yeah.
Yep. Not my idea. I learned it from my predecessors.
No, that's.
So drafting a rough draft of a development agreement that could then be brought back before this body, where then you could decide whether or not you're able to take action or needed to establish a committee to hash out some of the finer details.
Yep.
In the future.
Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries. All right, Christmas and New Year schedule.
Let me get to my next paper clip. That's 2. Okay, Christmas and New Year's schedules are generally very light in the village, especially in the office. Most of the staff like to take time off during those times anyhow, and it leaves us very short staffed. So I'm proposing that we close between Christmas and New Year's moving forward, not just this year, but every year subsequently also. And for 2024, it would look like being open on Monday, the 23rd, close the 24th, close the 25th, and throughout January 1st, and then reopen on January 2nd.
If I may, I have a question just because I had
Sure.
some confusion in the language when I was reading it.
Sure.
Is it expected of staff to utilize PTO, their personal time off, to cover these hours, or is it going to be paid for?
It would be
You know.
paid time off, yes.
So they
So
use them
either vacation or
unpaid time?
paid time off, which we're fairly generous with. And or if they're out of it, then it would be time off, and it would equate to basically 3 days each year.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a decision made by this council to allow for that, I don't think the staff should be utilizing their accrued paid time off for, I think it should be. And most companies will cover, most companies, I know this isn't a company, but most companies would cover, mandatory time off like this. That's an annual thing. So it'd just be a perk of the company, I guess. I just don't like the idea of them having to use their accrued time off.
They're not allowed to carry it over from year to year anyhow, so they have to use it or lose it. And generally, it comes up that there are requests for being able to carry it over from.
Right, but if you
to
think, at the beginning of the year, say you get 3 weeks, okay, well, I have to make sure I get paid for a week and a day, through the course of mandatory time off in December, it just doesn't make any sense to me for them to have to use their accrued time off. If we're mandating this.
And just for other, I don't know if it'll help or not, but overwhelmingly, staff was in support of the idea.
Yeah.
I proposed it to them during a staff meeting, and they were
Right.
very much in support.
Yeah.
Mr. President, if I may, just
Sure.
comment. I think, I love the idea that you're giving back to the staff and they deserve it. So I want to be straight up there. This is not a business. Is the post office closed from Christmas till New Year's? Is Berry County is Berry County closed for the entire week?
I don't know if Berry County is. There are several. I did reach out to a lot of different municipalities around the state. We're actually in the minority being open between Christmas and New Year's right now. So there are more municipalities are going the way of just closing their doors during that time. We don't have water bills due during that time. We don't have taxes due. We don't have a lot of foot traffic as it is. And we are.
Most
would-
often than not, we cancel the second council meeting that month.
Yes.
We generally have a very light planning commission
Yep.
agenda, so it's.
Yep.
Does
It's
it,
pretty-
just as long
it's
as it
pretty
makes sense.
commonplace. It only makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just,
The only person that would really, honestly, it'd be Kim holding down the fort.
Well, Kim.
DPW is still working.
DPW is still working, you know, their normal, you know,
So not a-
snowstorms and
not
things
so
like
it's
that.
not, it's not a whole municipality
Right.
shutdown. It's just the
Yes.
office.
Yes,
I
yes,
see.
yes.
Okay. I just it gets the lines get blurry, and I know that we do have taxpayers that pay to interact with our village, and I bring this up every time we talk about giving relaxed vacation time or time off or extended weekends that the office is closed or closing early on Friday. I mean, we've done a lot of accommodation, I think, to make it a great place. But I'm still always very concerned that if that 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 people during that week who have vacation that want to take care of business don't have the ability to go into the front door, concerns me. And I would, we may be in the minority at this stage. And if that's the case, I certainly want to trend correctly. But I also know we just are not running a company here, and we're accountable in a totally different way. And I just want to make sure that we're being cognizant of that.
Yep, I
when we
completely
make these
understand that.
decisions.
Yep.
Well, we've made pretty significant leaps and bounds with accessibility to the public. Our online billing has gotten considerably better.
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing okay.
Yeah.
Close because our email still works.
Yeah.
I mean,
And even though I'm, we went on vacation when I was in St. Thomas, I was replying to emails. I don't know
How
if you
dare
noticed that
you.
or not.
How dare you?
Well, it's just one of those deals.
That will
Yeah,
still
but we
happen,
can expect-
email
Yes,
by-
absolutely.
okay.
Yes.
But if
probably not Christmas morning, but every other.
No,
call me a softie, but paid time off is you're being paid to not be on time, to not be on the clock and not answer email. And I'm glad you do, and that's great, for emergencies, but Craig, that's your time. And just like it's time for our village staff, if they're being forced to utilize their accrued time because of a council approved mandated closure during that time, I agree with Kevin wholeheartedly about, keeping the business hours open and letting the staff dictate how they want to utilize instead of having to, okay, I got to set aside 5 business days at the end of the year, but even though I want to go on a big family trip and it's going to, you know what I mean? So you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
it would work out to 3 days every year.
I'm going to call them
Yeah.
season days.
I'd rather do that than make them use their accrued time. This doesn't sit well with me. Mandated closure doesn't sit well with me for them to use their mandated accrued benefit. That's,
I mean, if you're going to close, if we vote to close the office, it's obviously from the top down. It's not that they're asking for that time off.
Right.
You're giving it to them. So I think, that's
They're
certainly
already
makes
getting
sense.
paid for Christmas and New Year's. So
Right.
if we offer to
It's
give them
one
the-
day.
And Christmas
they're
Eve and New Year's
Gonna
Eve.
lose
Yeah,
it.
so
if
they're
they
they're
don't
gonna
use
yeah.
it.
can we just give them a floating holiday and
We-
so they're not using?
They have that option also if they chose to use it, but already this year it's been used.
So you already talked to them and they liked the proposal, so
They did.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Accountability, I think.
Right. Yeah. I just don't want to hear in a year, well, that was a bad idea because they're not allowed to use their,
Then we can change it.
Okay.
yeah.
All right, well, I will make the motion to move this on, that we permanently close the village offices between Christmas and New Year's Eve, effective December 24th to January 1st.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Any more discussion?
I just want one little point. In industry, oftentimes you are forced to use your vacation, and sometimes you don't even get a choice of when your vacation is, as in like Bradford White's. You have your vacation during shutdown week, or you don't.
Let's be honest.
And
90% of the employees choose that week anyway.
Right.
Well,
And
but I'm just saying,
I totally
That is a
get, and,
strategically placed week.
you know,
Well-
but for me, having been an employer and an employee, just having a really good employer and trying to be a good employer, there's a balance. You know, there's give and take, and just,
Every industry is different.
yeah.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries. So Calvin Hill Park surveillance camera.
Yes, mistakenly, when we received the proposal originally for the surveillance cameras for our main campus and what I thought was Calvin Hill Park, the contractors mistook Calvin Hill Park for East Bank or Sesquicentennial Park.
So they did not include a quote for
They
that.
did not include a quote for Calvin Hill Park, which I know was a major concern originally when council, looked at surveilling our campus and our specifically trouble spots, which includes Calvin Hill Park. So I asked them to provide me a quote, and this is for you for your consideration.
Not gonna lie, it seemed pretty cheap when I saw it.
I have a question,
Mhm.
if I may. Is this, so this is technically like a third of what we initially paid for a bunch more cameras.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because didn't we pay like 60 grand for various spots? Like the pavilion up front here.
It was,
It was quite a bit more than that.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was six figures.
Are we utilizing ARPA funds for this, or is this a general
this
fund
would be
purchase?
general fund through the Parks and Rec funds that we
Oh, right.
had set
Yep,
aside
okay.
for this budget year, and we did not utilize, we've utilized $1,500 and $39 of those so far this year.
Is there a lot of vandalism there where we should focus on cameras versus equipment?
So in years past, it's been a pretty problem area, a lot of complaints.
Burning down the porta john.
Yes, for example. And since we've installed everything over here and around this campus area, we've really, knock on wood, not really had much of anything as far as vandalism or any trouble at all. So I think they've really proved to be a deterrent, which was the intention of that. I think they would probably do the same over there, so.
Sure.
I looked at the material you supplied.
Mhm.
I was trying to figure out the camera scanning spectrum.
Okay,
And thinking about not only the equipment there and things you could have fun with and
Mhm.
all that. I didn't see that it really scanned the southwest corner where the monument is that Dave Otto and I installed there umpteen years ago.
oh, okay.
In the casting that I
You're
made.
talking about East Bank over
The one
there.
that,
Yep,
the one that says this
the
is
one that's
Calvin
at the,
Hill Park.
yeah. Yeah.
Southwest corner.
Does it, I just want to know, does the camera look at that?
It looks in the direction, but it's not, it's probably on the edge of the field of view
Yeah,
based on the drawing.
Nobody's ever vandalized it,
No.
which is wonderful.
Knock on wood.
But,
Well,
I
the
don't have-
merry-go-round is also outside
I
the
don't
field
work
of
at the
view.
foundry
I feel like that was intentional.
So, is there any way of making sure that gets scanned
we
as well?
can, yeah, we can look at some of that too.
You know.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because that, well, speaks for itself.
This is a continuation of what, in my personal opinion, is probably one of their strongest deliveries or deliverables. So, this camera system is amazing. I was able to peek at it a number of times, and it, I think, does what it does exactly what they say it's going to do, and it doesn't seem to. I mean, to Mr. Kramer's point, it seems not terribly expensive. So I think it's this is a good investment, and certainly I think that is historically. I mean, we want people to loiter in a park, but
But after
right,
hours.
but the right
Yeah.
people. So I think I think this is good that we're investing in that park anyway. I think it's something that it's kind of a crown jewel that we really never pay much attention to. So certainly is an important move forward.
And we have had people come here and ask for us to do something about it. The vandalism.
Well, I think that
Yeah,
was
for sure.
a veteran memorial. But,
Yeah, we've had people.
yeah.
For sure over there.
Well, Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to approve
I'll read the rest if you want.
move to approve the attached quote from K Group for $19,252.60 with funds allocated in the 2024 Parks and Recreation.
Okay, you can read the rest. Support. We have a motion with support to do what Kevin just read. Did everybody hear it? I can read it again. Okay. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. Kim, may I have roll call, please?
Sure. Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Stephen Baldry,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, attached are your draft minutes of the DDA meeting from August 20th, the DDA revenue and expenditures report from August 14th. Public comment. Anybody like to speak again? All right, final council comment. Anybody want to start?
Yeah. I want to thank the Middleville Rotary, the Friends of the Library Committee, the Middleville DDA, and the other individuals that participated in the Heritage Days Committee, because it was a very busy day. Everybody played their part. And it turned out to be a fantastic time. Heard no complaints, except apparently post office man got stuck in a queue of cars during a roadblock, but
Oh, yeah, I was there for that.
yeah. But other than that,
Come rain
at least
or
he
shine.
wasn't, at least he wasn't in the
Wasn't
parade,
in the
so.
parade.
But with that, I just want to thank everyone, because it certainly, I know I've been thanked, but really it was a team effort between the Rotarians that were there and the Friends of the Library Committee that was there, those team members that helped me pull it off. So certainly a group effort for the whole day, and thank you to everyone who made it happen.
TVC Church was helping
Yep.
out too. So.
Yep, TVC Church, Rich Jenkins from the Legion was there as well. So, and not to forget all the businesses that participated.
Good, Mackenzie?
Yeah, that's
Express
it.
my thanks to the Berry County Commission for passing the Minville Project TIF. Kevin was there, made a great appeal. How he did it in 3 minutes, I don't know.
Chat GPT. Kept it
It
concise.
was excellent. You need to practice that more often.
Amen.
Let's see, who else was there? Steve was there, made an appeal. I was there, Bob was there. Essentially, anybody that matters relative to housing in Hastings was there and made great appeal for it. And it passed, not unanimously, but there was a negative vote by 2 people. Thank you.
Could you hear me yelling at the laptop from Ann Arbor?
I'm wondering where you were.
Yelling at the laptop.
The disembodied voice of Mike.
Some people have to work for a living.
Yeah.
I am using my extent of flex days to make it to the committee of the whole meeting, so.
Oh, another thing. I won't be here on the 3rd. I've got a prior engagement
Thanks for letting us know.
for both meetings.
Mr. Bishop, would you like to go next?
Sure. At the end of the commissioners' meeting this morning, someone got up and said that they were proud to stand with the people that were against the TIF. And that gentleman did not know how we were going to answer the question when our citizens came up and said, hey, why don't we get tax discounts? And I would like to address that. My answer to that is that you do. If you're buying a house, there's all sorts of tax incentives to do that. And if you look at this as a bunch of tiny little houses and you take all of those tax incentives and bundle them together to get people to live in an area, it's the same thing. You're just doing it at a different level. Yes, a corporation benefits from some sort of a tax agreement, but so do individuals when they buy homes. And so my answer to anyone that is complaining about the TIF would be that if you've purchased a home, you have also gotten tax incentives to do that. And I would want to know the reasoning why that you don't think that that matters for someone else who might not be in a situation where they can afford an entire house. That's all I have.
Thanks. Steve?
I also would like to thank the commissioners for the vote this morning. I was able to say a little piece, and I had to go because I had my training for asset infrastructure today, but I was very glad that the turnout was there, both positive and negative. But and I would like to commend Mr. Smith on his deliverance of his words. I know they set that clock at 2 minutes on you. I see it.
That's why I got nervous.
But it's been a long road. I'm glad to see that one done. For myself, I won't be here next week. I'm going to family reunion.
Family rebellion?
In Indiana. With brothers, sisters, and wives, husbands, type of thing.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long 5 days. Ring. 5 days.
That's not a rebellion, that's a reenactment.
Yeah, what is 5 days in eternity? I'll let you know. Then the other thing, I had my Zoom today with, on the infrastructure training. There's 153 people in this class. And they broke us down into groups of about 5. They gave us questions we had to come up with and talk. I was with people from Detroit, Ypsilanti, Traverse City. I was the small guy there. We had to rate on a scale of 1 to 5 where we thought our municipality was with regards to asset management. I gave us a 4. For the pre-planning has been done, looking into the future for wastewater, vehicles for the department, and so on and so forth. The big city folks were at 2, and they really wanted to argue why I said 4. A lot of the reason is because everybody that we answer to is always here.
Yeah, right. In one
We have
room.
to have a meeting of a meeting of a meeting of a meeting of a meeting. We take care of our business here. And there's a lot of people in the bigger municipalities that they don't get that. And,
No.
and for that, I would say you stay there then. But fortunately, oh yeah, you're recording. Sorry.
The word's out now.
Said it, you can take it back. The only thing I have is with this piece of equipment right here. I'm a 35-year machine repairman. If this was a tool in my toolbox, I'd have threw it away a long time ago. But I can't get the camera to work on this thing. So I'm in the Zoom thing and I'm doing the audio part, but I can see everybody else, nobody can see me. So that's probably a good thing, really, but I got some serious issues with this. So
So there's a slide up there that you slide to the left and it turns your camera on?
no,
No? Okay, just checking.
but I don't know if this is part of our incredibly tight security system that nobody's camera works.
It might be your browser settings.
Huh?
It might be your browser settings. You gotta allow for
Well, I went
permissions.
through every help that Windows offered and all that type of stuff and couldn't get it turned on.
Give it to the millennial.
Huh?
So give it to the millennial.
What are you talking about? You and I are the only two that haven't put on and installed the
That's
self-service
because
app.
it takes 4 hours. Steve said it was 4 hours to do that. I ain't got time for
Zoom
that.
meeting today was over 2, so it,
Yeah.
at any rate. So I need to get that fixed before, or I'm just gonna use my own laptop. I'll just use my own link and do it that way. That's probably easy just anyways, but. That's what I do. So other than that, that's about it. I would like to say thank you to everyone, Mr. Lyons and everyone that came, Mr. Beck, for the interest in the property. I know it's a non-profitable visit for both of you, that nothing gets resolved. I know you've put time and expense into it, and I appreciate that. I want to say thank you for coming. Other than that, that's about it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
I'm going to speed read. So we went to Lowell. It was awesome. It was so awesome to go and hang out with those folks. Lowell's awesome. They have a lot of great infrastructure. Their staff is awesome. I just enjoyed it so much. It was so much fun to see another municipality and much. I'm going to echo the fact that they have a lot of the same issues that we have. We're all the same. We're all so much the same. It's kind of crazy. So that was a lot of good times, and I really appreciated that opportunity. So thanks for that. Thanks for the commissioners for approving the TIF. That was a long road, long road, and I'm glad that we're finally to a point where we can get that resolved. I want to thank you gentlemen for coming out and presenting and just being part of making Meadowville better. And, I know that there's other opportunities here, so just keep your ear to the ground. And I'm certain that what you have will benefit us as well. So thank you for putting the time, effort, and energy. Last thing I want to throw out there, and because I really want to get the details on this and present this to the council, and that is flagging license plates.
Yeah, I knew
when
exactly
they come
what
in.
that was.
Yeah, so so Lowell, a part of their awesomeness, they have a system that takes a photograph of just license plates. It's not so big brother that it made me feel uncomfortable because I can't stand that stuff. But in this particular case, it takes a photograph of your license plate, and it actually runs it against a database for people who might be kidnapping, Amber Alerts, wanted felons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what it does is it actually notifies law enforcement the minute that they come into town. And it's pretty killer. I mean,
Only for flagged vehicles.
it's only for flagged vehicles. The data stays in a database for 30 days and then it goes away. So they cycle through that. But this particular system is very impressive. I think it's a great way to participate in a broader net to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure the right people are going behind bars. And I'm all about giving our law enforcement all the tools that they need. We have 4 main entryways into the village. I think it's kind of a no-brainer to explore what that looks like and what it costs. And I think it would be a good investment. So I'll get more details on that. I'll work with Craig and we'll put something together to present to council. But I thought that was the neatest system ever. So
Could that be portable?
No.
It's not portable. It's definitely fixed. But they've actually leveraged it, and they've been able to participate in tracking people down that needed to be tracked down. And so,
And that goes for property theft too, so stolen vehicles, you said, right?
yeah, it's stolen vehicles and whatnot. So in a scenario like what we had
A few months ago.
when we had 6 months ago or whatever,
Mhm.
that would have been a perfect opportunity to leverage that, because you can actually go to that timeline and pick it out. So if we have a fixed or a somewhat of an idea of when they were in town, we could actually get a description of the car and whatnot.
They came in on a stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that robbery at the marijuana shop down by
Yeah.
Tire 2000
Same.
been
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep.
Pull an ATM
Imagine-
off the bank.
Imagine if we had had that technology then, all the cars that wouldn't have been vandalized and that one truck that wouldn't have been
Yep.
stolen had we had that.
And it's in real time. I mean, they legit, that system notifies law enforcement the minute that they roll into town. So very cool. More details later, but I just wanted to share that with council. And now with that, I'm glad Heritage Days was awesome. I was driving my wife to the airport and I was regretting every minute of it, except publicly, I just want to say I love you, and I'm glad I was able to take you to the airport. I really wanted to be here for Heritage Days. It's a very special time, and from what I hear, everybody just knocked it out of the park. So
Yeah, Don Boyson said he had a sore arm from waving.
He was a good grand marshal.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Thank you for coming. I really enjoyed your presentation, and Andrew, thank you. Thanks for the MDA. That was very cool. I loved the meeting before this. Thanks for all who was able to attend. Heritage Days was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the parade, all that hard work, and that's it.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I was hashing out agreements. So for all the restaurants in town, there will be yet another soccer tournament this weekend. Fair warning. Staff appropriately. Yeah, to Kevin's point, the cameras, I made sure to ask the gentleman. So if we have cars that are stolen and come from Battle Creek and go to Grand Rapids and come back through, you'd be able to catch those. And he's like, oh yeah, we can go in and we can see the license plate. And if there's like a certain set of stickers in the back window, we can search by that. But the ones that pop up are only flagged. So if there's an unlicensed vehicle to drive by, nothing happens. It's not in the system. It's just a picture there. They don't care if you're not flagged. It only sends a message if it's been flagged in any type of crime. But yeah, that was the thing that they had to get ahead of, was educating the public on Big Brother's not coming to watch you. It's just us checking out cameras. And if you're worried about us putting cameras at the limits of the village, Grand Rapids has them on every cruiser.
Yeah, they said it. They have a lot of.
They have a lot of them. Thank you for everyone that attended the Mayor Exchange Day. I think that was my third. Alex been to 4. He's got one on me. Every time it's different, but I think Lowell was probably the closest meeting. I said to them too. And Craig, I don't know if you saw, but they gave us an actual key.
Yeah, I
Not
saw
a piece of
that.
paper.
Yeah.
So let's step up our game next time.
Way to be.
Oh, well,
It's okay. I left it here so we can hang it on the wall with all the other ones. There's a lot of good information to come from those. It's not like just like our current problems. They have problems that we haven't had yet. We have problems they haven't had yet. And it's nice to be able to just stroll through the community and let them just come up, like how they funded their museum/library and then moved it to an actual library. I mean, there's a lot of great discussion there. How they fund a lot of their beautification, like a banker in town just gifted them $5 million and they fund their beautification on the interest. It is a lifetime perpetual fund that puts
Forever.
flowers on Main Street. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of great information to get from that. So the next time it comes around, I would highly encourage it. It is just as useful as any training you go to.
For sure. It's good.
Gosh, I had someone else. No, I'm good. Let's wrap this up, go.
Mr. President, may I say something?
You may.
No.
Because I am not Rhonda, I messed up. And I was supposed to ask this during public comment. I just wanted to let everybody know that the village is partnering with Berry County United Way for Day of Caring. One of the projects we decided to do this year is collect hygiene kits for Thornapple Kellogg schools to help them with students who are in need while they're in school. Or to take things home at the end of the day, shampoo, conditioner, body spray, laundry soap. We have collection boxes in the front lobby and in the back for when we are not here. So if you guys could pass the word along for that, we'll be doing that through September 11th. And then Day of Caring is on September 12th. That's it.
Thank you, not Rhonda.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
We have a motion with support to adjourn. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. This meeting's adjourned.
That was
I won't see you
that was
Tuesday.
cool. And they have quite the corridor.
Get down off my
They have
perch here,
whiteboard.
talk to
That
you.
was the only, oh, no,